Shahid Bolsen is a political activist, writer, and speaker known for his outspoken critiques of Western foreign policy, capitalism, and global power structures. He has gained a significant following for his bold, often polarizing opinions, and he does not shy away from challenging the status quo. Watch and pay attention, and I will share my thoughts later.
It's strange, if you think about it. It's strange that you don't want me to call you the West. You don't want everyone to be lumped together under that term. It's not my term, it's your term. I didn't come up with it, you did. You call yourselves the West. Western civilization. We all grew up hearing about how wonderful the West is. Western achievement, Western thought, Western enlightenment. You're happy to take collective credit as the West for whatever you think is good. But for the bad things, you want to disassociate yourselves from it. When you're talking about the bad things, then you're like, well, what West are you talking about exactly? Who do you mean by the West? The way you people tell the story, people like Douglas Murray or Jordan Peterson or Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins or Hitchens, Christopher Hitchens, all these types, you would think that every European on the continent participated in painting the Sistine Chapel. Everyone painting in shifts. All of you collectively invented penicillin, from the telephone to airplanes, from the cotton gin to the microchip. You all did that as one gigantic team effort. We, the West, abolished slavery. We, the West, gave women the right to vote. We, the West, developed modern technology. You like being called the West then, but just bring up just one, of your innumerable atrocities, and then everyone starts looking around. Who, me? Oh, you must have me mistaken for some other person, some other West. Shaggy. It wasn't me. My forefathers didn't own slaves. My forefathers didn't slaughter the Native Americans. My forefathers were just poor, innocent peasants. I have nothing to do with it. Innocent as can be. You want to take collective credit, but you want to individualize blame. But you'll say that Isaac Newton, for example, is a product of the West. Michelangelo was a product of the West. Mozart was a product of the West. Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Edison, Steve Jobs, they're all products of the West. But somehow your villains are all bastards, illegitimate children that you don't want to claim. No. Hitler was your child. King Leopold was your child. Harry Truman was your child, a man who killed more people in a matter of seconds than anyone in the history of the human race. And not to mention every American president after Truman. From the Korean War to Vietnam to the dirty wars in Central and South America to Panama, the first and second wars in Iraq, Somalia, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, and before Truman, I don't think that the United States has had a single decade in its history when it wasn't slaughtering some people somewhere in the world. These are all products of Western civilization too. But anytime these crimes get brought up, you deny collective responsibility. I mean, if I try to list all of your crimes, I can't even remember them all. But if I try to list just the ones that I can remember, your battery will die before I can even properly get started. You not only don't condemn your terrorists, you not only don't try them for war crimes as they should be tried, you re-elect them into office. Not just elect them, re-elect them. And you deny any responsibility for their atrocities. No, if you want to be called the West, when it comes to any positive achievements, then you have to accept being called the West for all the full catalog of inhuman, vicious, genocide, murder, rape, torture, bigotry, exploitation, oppression, assassinations, coups and subjugation, evil and brutality, all that your people have ever committed. That's why I always say Western civilization is a sarcastic term, because you never civilized. And, we made cool stuff is not a defense. Your approach to morality is, let's not and say we did. Let's not be moral, but say we are. You think that righteousness is denying the evil you do, not stopping yourselves from doing the evil. As long as you say you don't do it, or you call it something else, then somehow you're not evil when you do evil, as long as you don't admit it. It's upside down world. Every day is backwards day in the West. Bad is good, wrong is right. And I'm telling you How on earth do you expect to ever stop doing blameworthy things if you think that you are immune from blame no matter what you do? Yes, okay, your forefathers were probably poor peasants. I agree with you. They didn't participate in the crimes of the West. They didn't participate in colonization or imperialism. But then they also have no reason to take pride in the achievements of the West either, and neither do you. They were victims of the West in their own way, and so are you. If you want to disassociate yourself from the crimes, then disassociate yourself from the achievements, and realize that you and your forefathers and your ancestors were all abandoned and betrayed and duped by propaganda about Western civilization. No one ever cared about your development or your forefathers' development. No one ever cared about your welfare or your forefathers' welfare. No one ever cared about your upliftment or theirs. No one ever cared about your life. Not yours, not your forefathers, not your ancestors. And the West doesn't care about you now. But here you are defending it, like you have no self-esteem, like you have no pride. You and I both know the West doesn't care if you starve to death. They don't care if you get kicked out of your home and live on the streets. If you spend the rest of your life drowning in debt, they don't care. If you fry your brains on drugs, they don't care. And if you decide that life is too hard, they'll help you kill yourself. That's the West. And that's what the West thinks of you. The West didn't raise you right because you don't matter to the West. They don't care if you have knowledge. They don't care if you have an education. They'll pass you on up to the next grade whether or not you can read or write because you don't matter. Every day of your life, your civilization all around you is shouting at you in a million different voices that you don't matter. You're just a replaceable cog in the machine. Everyone in the West is regarded as disposable by the West, and still you defend it as the pinnacle of human refinement. You need to break that spell because you're living in a trance of propaganda that's all designed to keep you oblivious to your own humiliation. But then you'll get mad at me for trying to tell you to break that spell, to break that trance. You'll get mad at me because I'm trying to tell you that you need to stop being humiliated. You need to stop aligning yourself with the ones who are humiliating you. You need to stop aligning yourself with the ones that were humiliating your forefathers and that are humiliating you now. And you're going to get mad at me. But you don't disassociate yourself. I'm supposed to disassociate you from them. But you're not. Why should I disassociate you from the West when you don't do it yourself? I'm trying to tell you that you need to break the trance. I'm trying to tell you that you need to break out of the propaganda. You need to break out of the indoctrination. You need to break out of the programming. But you're going to get mad at me for telling you that. And you want to hold on to the programming. You want to hold on to the indoctrination. And then while you're holding on to it, I'm supposed to separate you from the indoctrination that you're holding on to.
The G7 or Group of Seven consists of the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, and Japan. This nation represents some of the largest economies in the world, and they meet annually to discuss global issues like economic policy, climate change, and international security. But according to Shahid Bolsen, the G7 is less about solving global problems and more about maintaining a system of dominance and control. He argues that the G7 is a club of wealthy, industrialized nations that prioritize their own interests at the expense of the rest of the world. Bolsen also criticized the G7 for what he sees as its role in perpetuating neocolonialism. He points out that many of the policies promoted by the G7, like free trade agreements and structural adjustment programs, often benefit Western cooperation while leaving developing nations in debt and poverty. Another key aspect of Bolsen's critique is what he calls the hypocrisy of the G7. He argues that these nations often preaches about democracy, human rights, and environmental protection, but their actions tell a different story. He also highlights their historical contributions to climate change and their failure to meet emission reduction targets. So what does Shahid Bolsen propose as an alternative to the G7? He advocates for a more equitable global system that prioritizes the voices of marginalized communities and addresses the root causes of inequality. Bolsen believes in empowering local movements and creating structures that allow people to have real control over their resources and futures. He calls for an end to exploitative economic practices and a shift toward genuine cooperation and solidarity among nations. Now, Bolsen's views are definitely controversial, and not everyone agrees with him. Supporters of the G7 argue that it plays a crucial role in addressing global challenges and fostering international cooperation. They point to initiatives like debt relief for developing countries and efforts to combat climate change as evidence of the G7 positive impact. And there you have it, guys. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.